Hmm, I don't think this story is for everyone. If you believe in ghosts, or if you don't believe in ghosts, or the word ghost troubles you, it's best you choose another story. Otherwise, you will not sleep comfortably in your bed tonight, because Alistair certainly didn't. The secret ingredient. The farm was not a bit as Alistair expected. Tall, shining aluminium silos, massive modern tractors, and an open-sided hangar parked with the latest agricultural equipment did not project a sinister image. The farmer, with an amused twinkle in his eye, climbed into Alistair's van. "I'll show you where your ghost is," he smiled. They drove beside fields of high-standing wheat, their swaying golden welcome in the sunlight a contrast to further fields, seas of dark green leaves of cabbages stretching in the horizon. "You have wonderful crops," said Alistair. "We do use commercial fertilizer," replied the farmer, "but," and his eyes were twinkling again, "I add a secret ingredient." "And I suppose you never reveal your secret ingredient," laughed Alistair. The farmer shook his head. "Then it would not be a secret," he said. They drove around a small spinney, and it was there. "Ah," thought Alistair, "this is more like it." A lovable little farmhouse waited in an English country garden. The golden brown thatched roof sat comfortably on half-timbered walls. Small leaded windows twinkled in the white wattle and daub cladding, adding to the timeless appearance. Alistair smiled. Now this is just where a ghost could be. "No one lives here now." The farmer opened the garden gate. "The family lives in a new house on the other side of the farm," he said. "You'll be all alone tonight," the farmer chuckled. The ghostly reputation his old farmhouse had acquired obviously amused him. The walls of the old staircase were lined, surprisingly, with trophies. Tall silver vases, statues, medals, and ribbons glittered as they climbed the creaking boards to the main bedroom. "I have the best crops in the county." "Probably in the country," affirmed the farmer, with a wave of his hand as they passed his prizes. "Thanks to your special ingredient?" asked Alistair. With a click and a twist and another chuckle, the farmer threw open the door. Heavy wooden beams crossed the low ceiling, an inglenook fireplace, and Alistair stared at the heavy enclosing curtains and the draped canopy from the star of the bedroom, the four-poster bed. Alistair smiled. It was all here: creaking stairs, creaking floorboards, the small window, the shadowed corners of the room. Yes, this was real ghost country. But it was also very theatrical. His hobby of ghost hunting had, for the last 15 years, been rewarding. Nerve-wracking moments, dramatic incidents, and a few, very few, terrifying incidents had been entertaining, but never with any ghost, establishing Alistair's conviction there was no such thing as a ghoul. No, it's okay, I can manage." Alistair refused the farmer's offers of help to unload his equipment. "How many of your visitors have actually seen a ghost in here?" Alistair placed one of his cases on the bed. "I don't really know," replied the farmer, "but what I can tell you, everyone who has slept here was a very different person when they left to when they had arrived." Alistair smiled to himself. This was the usual evasive answer to his question. This visit was lining up like all the others to a probable waste of time. "Well," said the farmer, "I will leave you with your ghosts and ghouls and other things that go bump in the night." With another smile he strode off, just a bobbing head above his prized high-standing wheat. Alistair creaked up and down the old staircase 4 times, distributing his equipment in the bedroom. A camera on a tripod was placed in the center of the room with a 360-degree scan, and an alarm that would activate should anything move on the horizontal axis that covered the entire bedroom. A second camera was set on the wash basin with an infrared detector. Another alarm would sound should the heat pattern in the room be disturbed. 2 microphones in each corner and a pressure meter completed his detection kit. Any noise, movement, change of temperature or pressure in the bedroom would be recorded instantly. Alistair opened his latest reading, plumped up the pillows and sat upright on the bed and waited to be terrified. The bed was extremely comfortable and Alistair's eyes ached from his 2-hour reading stint. Resetting the pillows, he lay down and stared up at the canopy above his head. It, he thought, must have taken servants a long time to clean all the folds and furls of the material that decorated the bed like this. He gripped the post near his head and shook it. The bed did not move. The frame was rigid and tight. He would have expected such an old bed such as this to be rickety and loose, but everything on this farm seemed to be well maintained and functional. A few creaks, but otherwise nothing. He had been in the room 3 hours now, and the famous ghost must still be asleep. Nothing had moved, no sound had been detected, and the temperature and air pressure in the room was constant. He tested the large torch he had by his side, swept the beam around the room, then switched it off and lay back on the pillow and tried to stay awake. The bedside light went out without a click. He had not touched it. He smiled. It had obviously been killed elsewhere in the building. At last, things were happening. The beam from his torch told him there was no one in the room. Nothing had changed. But was that right? Something had changed. His camera, microphones, and the temperature recorders told him nothing. But he could feel something. What it was, he had no idea, but something had changed, and it was still changing. He could feel it. He could move, but he remained still. This was what he had come here for. Was he at last going to meet a real ghost? His pressure meter. The torch lit up the dial. Was the pressure in the room changing? He blinked hard and watched the needle intently. It had moved. Not a lot, but it had definitely moved. What could be making the pressure in the room increase? How did you increase pressure in a room? By pumping in more air. But there was no sound, no hissing, nothing had changed. But the pressure was definitely mounting, and quicker now. He swung his leg over the bed but stopped. He must not move, he must not change anything. This was excellent. Perhaps for the first time he was about to meet the supernatural. A fold of excitement creased his stomach. There were none of the usual effects, groans and screams and thuds and other sound effects he usually met. This was just silence, and Alistair had to admit, a little bit frightening. He watched the needle rise and tried to analyze the feeling around him. It was an experience he had never encountered. Lying back on the pillow, as if to hide from something, he swept the room with his torch beam again. What was it that was happening? Nothing was changing, yet the pressure was mounting. For the first time in his life and his ghost hunting career, the hair on the back of Alistair's neck rose, and he felt fear. Something was near him, or was it? His usual resort to logical thinking, common sense, and downright disbelief was not working. Something was near him. He couldn't see it, he couldn't smell it, and he couldn't hear it. But it was definitely there. He sat up to sweep the room again with his torch, but the blow hit his forehead, light exploding before him, fading into dazzling stars. He could not sit up. He was being held down. No, he was being pressed down. No, he wasn't. He just couldn't move. Some sort of weight was everywhere. He was trapped. He was suffocating. He was... His scream was his last sound. and his last thought was he was dreaming. He had fallen asleep and would wake up, and the agony would stop. But it didn't. In the morning, the farmer opened the bedroom door. What he saw brought a twinkle to his eyes. He crossed the room and unclipped a handle from under the bed. Slipping the handle into one of the bedposts, he wound and wound until the steel canopy, wrapped in material of the bed, lifted enough to see Alistair, or what was left of him, crushed between the blood-soaked sheets. With a satisfied nod, he turned the handle until the top of the bed clicked back up into place. His only frown was at the canopy that now dripped blood. To Alistair, it had been a quaint four-poster bed. To the farmer, a steel press used to squeeze the life out of people, to make his special ingredient that he added to his fertilizer. He may be a murderer, but the farmer was not a liar. As he had told Alistair, when someone slept in this room, they were a very different person when they left to when they arrived.